the one idea that changes everything. There is one mindset so powerful, so unshakable, that once it clicks into place, the world can no longer break you. Not with criticism, not with rejection, not with betrayal. Because when you fully embrace it, when you stop merely understanding it and start living it, your pain transforms into fuel, your enemies into teachers, and your struggles into training. The game changes, and so do you. This mindset isn't about becoming invincible, it's about becoming untouchable. Mentally. It's not about never feeling pain, but about no longer being controlled by it. It's the difference between being wounded and being defined by the wound. Between suffering and collapsing under it. Between reality and the story you tell yourself about it. Most people live in reaction. They spend their lives running from discomfort, chasing validation, avoiding anything that challenges their fragile identity. But Nietzsche understood something deeper. That the strongest people in history, those who moved the world, were not those who avoided pain, but those who integrated it. Who took everything that tried to destroy them and turned it into power. This isn't just philosophy, it's psychological armor. Because once you stop expecting life to be fair, once you stop begging the world to understand you or protect you, you free yourself. You become dangerous in the best way, not reckless, not cruel, but calm. Unbothered, focused. Your strength no longer depends on who supports you. Your peace is no longer at the mercy of other people's chaos. You stop taking things personally, not because you don't care, but because you see clearly. And that's the shift, from reactivity to responsibility. From victimhood to authorship. From avoidance to awareness. The mindset that makes you mentally untouchable begins with one brutal realization. Life doesn't owe you comfort. But that doesn't make life your enemy. It makes it your greatest training ground. If you can endure it, you can grow from it. If you can grow from it, you can rise above it. And when you rise above it, you become someone the world can't manipulate. Can't shake, can't destroy. Not because you've built walls, but because you've built roots. The modern mind is weak. Look around you. Everyone is constantly offended. Every word, every gesture, every silence becomes a reason to spiral. A stranger frowns at them, it ruins their day. A post gets fewer likes than expected, they feel worthless. Someone disagrees, they call it an attack. The modern mind is not built for pressure. It's built for comfort. And that comfort has become a prison. We have confused sensitivity with strength. But true strength isn't about feeling more. It's about being able to hold what you feel without falling apart. Today, people break not from violence, but from opinion. They lose sleep over tone. They unravel because someone didn't respond fast enough. They need constant affirmation to function, and without it, they collapse. You've seen it. The rise of safe spaces, the fear of being misunderstood, the obsession with being seen, validated, liked. The modern mind doesn't know how to suffer, so it avoids everything that might hurt, including the truth. And in doing so, it becomes weaker. Because anything you avoid owns you. Anything you cannot face controls you. We were not meant to be this fragile. Nietzsche knew this. He called it a crisis of the spirit, a world that had lost its center. When strength is measured by comfort and happiness depends on the reactions of others, you don't have a mind. You have a puppet. Pulled by every external string, from headlines to hashtags. This isn't just a generational flaw. It's a spiritual emergency. We've built our identity around being unchallenged. And the result is a generation that confuses struggle with failure. But Nietzsche didn't see struggle as a problem. He saw it as a forge, because when the mind can no longer bear pressure, it forfeits its freedom. And a mind that cannot suffer, cannot grow. Pain reveals the real you. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain. They see it as an error, a sign that something is wrong. But Nietzsche didn't. He believed pain is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. It's how nature exposes the truth, not just about the world, but about you. Pain strips away illusions. It removes the masks you wear when things are easy. When you're comfortable, you can pretend to be confident, loyal, strong. But when the pressure builds, when reality pushes back, that's when the real you steps forward. This is why suffering matters, because it reveals what comfort hides. When everything falls apart, who do you become? Do you blame others? Do you collapse? Do you run back to old habits, old stories, old crutches? Or do you adapt, Do you sharpen? Do you evolve? Nietzsche wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." Not because survival is strength, but because pain is a mirror. It reflects your raw potential and your deepest weakness. The insult that ruins your day reveals your insecurity. The rejection that crushes you exposes your attachment. The silence that enrages you shows your dependency. You cannot fake your way through pain. It's too honest. It brings you face to face with your emotional muscle, or the lack of it. And in that moment, you either break or you build. Most people spend their lives seeking ease, and in doing so, they weaken their soul. But those who face their suffering head-on, they gain something more than comfort. They gain clarity, power, presence. They stop needing the world to be easy and start becoming someone who's ready when it's not. Pain doesn't just reveal you, it remakes you, if you let it. Why you break under pressure? Most people don't fall apart because life is too hard. They fall apart because their sense of self was never truly theirs to begin with. It was built on applause, likes, approval, and fitting in. So the moment rejection shows up, they collapse. Not because they're weak, but because their strength was borrowed, not built. When your confidence depends on being liked, every disagreement feels like a threat. When your worth is tied to your performance, every failure feels like death. And when your identity is based on control, every setback becomes a crisis. That's why people panic, ghost, lash out, or spiral. Not because the world is cruel, but because their ego was never designed to withstand reality. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He said, "The surest way to corrupt a youth is to teach him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently." In other words, if you build your value on being agreeable, validated, or understood, you've already surrendered your power. This is why you break under pressure. Because the self you created wasn't designed to hold weight. It was designed to impress others. It was never rooted in truth, only in perception. So when life applies pressure, rejection, criticism, failure, it doesn't just test you, it reveals you. But here's the key. Collapse isn't the end. It's the opportunity. It's the moment where the mask shatters and the rebuilding begins. Because only when your ego breaks can your real self emerge. Not the version built for approval, but the one that doesn't need it anymore. Pressure doesn't destroy the strong, it reveals the unprepared. And if you're willing to see the truth beneath your reaction, it can become the exact thing that sets you free. What Nietzsche called the higher man. Nietzsche didn't believe in equality the way modern minds do. He didn't think everyone was meant to be the same. He believed most people were sleepwalking through life, following the herd, avoiding pain, and calling that survival. But he also believed in the possibility of something greater. A rare kind of human who doesn't run from suffering but uses it. He called this person the higher man. Not someone born superior, but someone who becomes it through inner war. Someone who rejects comfort as the highest goal and sees challenge as transformation. While the herd clings to ease, praise, and belonging, the higher man walks the lonely path of truth, discipline, and self-overcoming. You can spot the difference in how they suffer. The ordinary person sees pain as a problem to escape. But the higher man, he sees pain as a teacher. He bleeds with awareness. He burns with purpose. He doesn't numb it, hide it, or pass it on. He faces it, he studies it, and he uses it to sharpen the blade of who he is becoming. Most people follow the group, because the group tells them who to be, how to feel, and what to want. It offers safety at the cost of your soul. But Nietzsche's higher man would rather be hated for his truth than praised for his obedience. He would rather stand alone in clarity than be surrounded by people who confuse comfort with meaning. To become this man is to stop asking, "How do I avoid pain?" and start asking, "What is this pain here to teach me?" It is to look at every rejection, failure, and heartbreak and see within it the blueprint of your own evolution. The higher man isn't untouchable because he avoids suffering. He's untouchable because he integrates it. And in doing so, he becomes the very thing the herd will never understand and never break. Mental sovereignty, the mindset shift. There's a mindset so rare, so misunderstood, it almost sounds insane to the modern world. It doesn't ask, "Why did this happen to me?" It says, "Good, let it happen." Not with bitterness, not with passive surrender, but with full conviction. Nietzsche called it Amor Fati, the love of fate. Not tolerance, not endurance. Love, love for the discomfort, love for the betrayal, love for the detour, the mistake, the failure, because they are not in the way. They are the way. This is not optimism. This is not positivity. This is psychological sovereignty, a state of mind where nothing can break you because nothing is outside your transformation. The average person tries to control everything. They want certainty, praise, safety. And when life doesn't give it to them, they collapse. They call it unfair. But Amor Fati doesn't ask for fairness. It doesn't demand explanations. It takes everything, the ugly, the painful, the tragic, and says, this too I will use. Most people resist life. They fight their past, curse their failures, shrink in the face of pain. But resistance is suffering. Amor Fati is freedom. Because the moment you stop needing life to go your way, you become untouchable. You don't just survive your pain, you rise through it. You walk into the fire and come out forged. Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding, nothing is against me. Every setback is fuel. Every insult is polish. Every silence is training. Every rejection is redirection. What could possibly stop someone who thinks that way? What could hurt a man who doesn't just endure pain, but drinks it like medicine? This is the mindset Nietzsche hinted at in everything he wrote. This is the foundation of becoming unbreakable. Not by hardening your heart, but by transforming how you see. You no longer need things to be easy. You just need them to be useful. And with Amor Fati, everything becomes useful. That's what makes it dangerous. That's what makes it divine. Because once you've tasted this mindset, once you've stopped begging for comfort and started loving your fate, there's no going back. You don't just overcome life's chaos. You become the kind of person it can no longer conquer. Why Amor Fati makes you untouchable? When you embrace Amor Fati, truly, not just as a quote, but as a way of being, you become psychologically untouchable. Not because life stops hurting, but because hurt no longer holds power over you. Rejection, it sharpens you. Failure, it educates you. Betrayal, it exposes what needed to go. Every pain becomes part of your evolution. Not an obstacle, but an ingredient. Most people spend their lives dodging discomfort. They avoid hard conversations. They run from endings. They silence themselves to avoid being judged. And in doing so, they hand their power to fear. But Amor Fati rewrites the equation. You don't run from pain, you shake its hand. You don't resent the loss, you absorb its lesson. You don't collapse under failure, you rise through it. Because now, nothing is happening to you. Everything is happening for you. You become immune. Not in the sense of becoming numb, but in the sense that you no longer resist reality. You don't need to manipulate outcomes. You don't need to defend your ego. You welcome whatever comes because you know it serves your becoming. That mindset is terrifying to people who rely on control. It's mystifying to those who need praise to feel worthy. But to you, it's freedom. Fear can't stick to you anymore, because what's left to fear when you've made peace with all outcomes? What's left to avoid when pain itself is part of your fuel? Amor Fati doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It doesn't turn you into a robot. It turns you into fire. Present, rooted, dangerous. Not because you wish harm on anyone, but because you can't be shaken by harm anymore. You're not seeking approval. You're not begging for comfort. You're not performing for love. You are alive, fully. And because of that, no one can use your pain against you. You've already claimed it. Everyone will misunderstand you. Once you embrace Amor Fati, your energy changes, and people won't know what to do with it. You'll no longer flinch when someone withdraws approval. You won't beg for love, explain yourself endlessly, or try to prove your worth. And to those still addicted to emotional validation, that makes you dangerous. You're no longer playing the game, and so they call you names. They'll say you've become cold, detached, arrogant, heartless. Not because you are, but because they don't understand a peace that doesn't beg. They don't understand a confidence that doesn't perform. They mistake your stillness for absence, your boundaries for cruelty, your self-possession for superiority. But what they're reacting to isn't your ego, it's your independence. You've cut the invisible cords of emotional dependency, and they don't know how to connect with someone who doesn't need them to feel whole. They confuse still water with ice, not realizing that stillness is power restrained. They're not really offended by your peace. They're unsettled by what it reveals about their own unrest. And so they try to pull you back in, into old roles, old dynamics, old scripts. But you're done performing. You're not living for interpretation anymore. You're living from your center. And that, to the unconscious, looks like rebellion. You become a psychological weapon. When you stop flinching at pain, you stop being controlled. Amor Fati doesn't just make you calm, it makes you unreadable. While others panic, you breathe. While others complain, you listen. You move through chaos like it was designed for you, and that rattles people. Not because you're aggressive, but because you're unshakable. This calm is not passive, it's powerful. You're no longer trapped in emotional whiplash. You see the game, the manipulation, the social theater, and you don't react. You observe. And that makes you dangerous. Because in a world built on emotional control, the one who cannot be baited holds the power. You don't seek revenge. You don't chase closure. You don't need validation. You've outgrown the cycle. Your silence becomes sharper than argument. Your stillness speaks louder than rage. And your ability to remain rooted in truth while everyone else spirals becomes a kind of quiet dominance. This is not about being above others. It's about being beyond the reach of chaos. You're not untouchable because you resist pain. You're untouchable because you invite it. You let it refine you. And that turns your very presence into a mirror. One that reflects what others are still avoiding. How the world treats the untouchable. When you become mentally untouchable, people feel it before they understand it. Some are drawn to you, not because they fully grasp your mindset, but because your energy feels clean, solid, different. They can't explain it, but they sense something unshakable in you, and that either inspires them or intimidates them. You'll notice the shift. Shallow connections fade, surface-level conversations die off. People who once needed you to play a role will vanish the moment you stop performing. But the ones who remain, they see you. They don't need explanations or justifications. Your presence alone speaks their language. This isn't loneliness, it's clarity. You stop trying to be understood by everyone because you realize not everyone is meant to walk with you. Some are meant to watch from a distance. Others are meant to project their fears. And a rare few, they'll recognize your path because they're walking it too. Being untouchable doesn't mean being alone forever. It means being willing to walk alone until those who match your frequency appear. And they will. Because truth attracts truth. Not quickly, not loudly, but inevitably. Nietzsche's warning, isolation is a rite of passage. Nietzsche didn't romanticize isolation. He understood it. He warned that when you rise above the herd, you will be alone. Not because you've done something wrong, but because very few people are willing to follow you into the unknown. And in those moments of silence, when the world feels distant, you'll question everything. But that questioning is the test. It's how you find out who you are without noise, without approval, without applause. Isolation isn't a punishment, it's a purification. When the crowd disappears, so do the distractions, so does the pressure to conform. All that's left is you, raw, unfiltered, unmasked. And that's when the real work begins. That's when you stop performing and start becoming. Yes, it's hard, but it's also sacred. Because in that sacred space of solitude, you reclaim something the world tried to take. Your mind, your focus, your direction. You stop bending your will to fit into other people's expectations. You learn to trust your own path, even if no one else understands it. The world will call it arrogance, coldness, madness. But Nietzsche knew the truth, that the higher you climb, the thinner the air, and the fewer people you'll find. But what you lose in company, you gain in clarity. And clarity is the birthplace of power. Living without permission. When you finally detach from external validation, something radical happens. You stop waiting for permission to live. You no longer ask the world, am I good enough? You no longer look to others to confirm your path. You choose, you move, you speak, and you do it not because it's popular, but because it's true. This kind of self-command is rare. Most people are still looking over their shoulder, measuring every step against someone else's expectations. But not you. Not anymore. You've realized that needing approval is a form of imprisonment, and every time you betray your truth to gain acceptance, you strengthen your chains. Living without permission doesn't mean you reject everyone. It means you stop rejecting yourself. It means you stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop editing your soul just to fit someone else's script. And yes, it will cost you. It will cost you shallow relationships. It will cost you fake praise. It will cost you the illusion of belonging. But what you gain is your life. Because the moment you stop asking, "Is this okay?" you begin to discover what's actually possible. You stop playing small. You stop dimming your fire. You become the author, not the actor. The creator, not the chameleon. And in that space of unapologetic freedom, you become something dangerous to the world of masks. You become real. The final form, Amor Fati in action. There's a moment, quiet, unannounced, when you realize nothing outside of you has power anymore. Not failure, not betrayal, not even death. Because everything you once feared has become part of your fuel. This is Amor Fati in action, not just as a concept, but as a lived experience. You don't resist the fire. You walk into it and let it forge you. Imagine a warrior standing alone after the battle, not unscathed but undefeated. His scars are not wounds, they are emblems. Proof that life struck and he stood still. That's what this mindset gives you. You stop chasing comfort. You stop avoiding hardship. You meet reality as it is and love it anyway. This isn't passive acceptance. It's radical engagement. When pain arrives, you greet it. When chaos strikes, you adapt. When the world says break, you say build. You become the eye of the storm, unmoved, unwavering, and unstoppable. Because Amor Fati isn't about liking what happens. It's about understanding that everything that happens belongs. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But when you live Amor Fati, you go further. You don't just bear the how. You welcome it. Because every how, no matter how brutal, is shaping the why. Your why. And when the world sees you, calm, grounded, unshakable, they'll wonder what your secret is. But it's not a secret, it's a choice. A choice to stop resisting life. And start becoming through it. For the ones becoming untouchable. If this message sparked something inside you, if you've ever felt like the world doesn't understand your peace, if you've been called cold, arrogant, or too intense just for being real, then you're not broken. You're just awakening. And that path is rare. But you're not walking it alone. Tap like if this video reminded you of your power. Drop a comment below, I read every one. Let me know what part hit you the hardest. Share this with someone who's waking up and needs a reminder that they're not crazy, just clear. And subscribe if you're done pretending. Because here on PsychVerseX, we don't wear the mask, we expose it.